The following review contains spoilers for Marvel's Iron Fist Season 1. On the plus side, being spoiled means you won't have to bother watching Marvel's Iron Fist Season 1. Yep, it's finally happened. The Marvel Cinematic Television Streaming Universe thing has finally produced an installment that outright sucks. Not like an Iron Man 2, aw man, that wasn't as good as the first one kinda sucks, or even a Thor 2, well, at least Loki is still fun kinda sucks, or even a third season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., wow, that got boring fast kinda sucks. Iron Fist is a legitimate full-on piece of shit. It is, without exaggeration, one of the worst TV shows I've ever had the misfortune to watch, and I watched CSI Cyber. Even in the superhero pantheon, it would stand out. Okay, maybe it's not in Batman v Superman bad, but it's absolutely Steel, Catwoman, and Suicide Squad bad. Now let's get one thing straight. Iron Fist is a bad show from the skin all the way down to the core. It has a shitty story, it's told badly, the pacing is non-existent, and while some of the characters are conceptually interesting, the execution for everybody basically sucks. Yes, even the characters they dragged over from the other Marvel Netflix shows. So it still would have been a bad show no matter who they got to play Danny Rand. See, there's been a shitload of controversy over that because in the original 70s comics, Iron Fist was one of those Orientalist dealies like Remo Williams, or for that matter, Doctor Strange, where it's all grounded in that fantasy version of Asian kung fu mysticism where the hero is a white dude who turns out to be better at being Asian than the Asian characters, and that kind of shit just doesn't fly these days. Or at least it doesn't fly without anyone complaining. And a lot of people have opined that maybe changing up the casting might have made that less uncomfortable. And yeah, maybe if Danny didn't look exactly like some douchebag poser who wandered over from a froyo place, it would be a little less fucking cringeworthy whenever he starts going on about respecting the dojo or lecturing people with Buddhist aphorisms, but everything else would still be fucking bad. But you know what's strange is, the only reason Danny Rand being a white dude who inherits the mystical protector mantle of Kunlun was ever important was because it made him an outsider in his own culture. But here, because as we know, the Marvel Netflix shows are so cheaply made that they usually can't afford to have stuntmen and interior lighting in the same scene, we basically spend no time in the mystical city of Kunlun other than some quickie flashbacks, and none of it gives us any sense of the place. So that whole thread of the character is completely non-existent and doesn't matter. Also not showing up, the Iron Fist costume, the dragon, pretty much all the weird mystical kung fu stuff that might actually have been worth making a 13-episode TV show about. Instead, this version of Iron Fist starts up with Danny coming back to New York after having been presumed dead for 15 years and spends the vast majority of its runtime on an incredibly tedious storyline about trying to regain his family company that requires a bunch of supporting characters and a ridiculously convoluted conspiracy narrative that is simply impossible to care about and ultimately adds nothing to the story. I mean, there's a whole long drawn-out subplot about David Wenham being cursed and coming back from the dead that takes forever to play out and could have been dropped from the whole series entirely with zero repercussions. But hey, why wouldn't you want a bad episode of Suits with random Game of Thrones shit stuffed into it taking up airtime in your Kung Fu series? But somehow, all of that is still slightly more watchable than when things switch over to when Danny's apparent real nemesis, the Hand, shows up. And believe it or not, they are somehow just as uninteresting here as they were in that last season of Daredevil. That Marvel Netflix has actually managed to make the words magic, ninja, death cult the single most boring thing in their entire universe is so incredible a feat, I'm almost impressed with it. Oh, and don't go supposing that they're saving all the interesting mystical stuff for the next season. The final episode manages to end on the biggest raised middle finger fuck you to audience optimism I may have ever seen in a TV show like this, and not in a good way. Not that it's possible to care about anything when the entire show is constructed around a series of reveals that aren't worth revealing. Now, look, having a villain whose identity and goals are a mystery can be intriguing. Having a hero we don't know the whole story of can be even more intriguing. Starting out a show with next to no indication of what it's actually about or who anyone is theoretically fun, for a while anyway, but Iron Fist tries to do all three in the same show, so there's never anything to care about or a fixed point to fucking center on until the goddamn season is almost over, and even then, none of these mysteries end up being compelling enough to have kept secret. And in case you're wondering, no, the fight scenes do not make up for any of it. There's maybe one that rises above passable, and even then it's just an extended reference so the filmmakers can be cute and show off that they've seen the Drunken Master movies. Otherwise, this is the first of the Marvel Netflix shows to have utterly dull action and be almost completely devoid of a unifying signature style. Daredevil was lurid and edgy, Jessica Jones had a whole film noir thing happening, Luke Cage did the easygoing retro hip-hop angle, but Iron Fist, at best, it has the same basic aesthetic as the non-Japanese parts of a Power Rangers episode. Amidst all of this, the cast is left floundering and adrift. Jessica Henwick has screen presence, but they've handed her a terribly written version of Colleen Wing, who sadly really does only feel like she's there to be a love interest, at least until they detonate her agency completely with the same moronic twist they handed Elektra in Daredevil. Seriously, they have now done this twice. The sole bright spot is seeing Rosario Dawson come back as Claire Temple, and while she's terrific, it is embarrassing watching the series bend its plot into pretzels to keep her involved. Hey guys, Claire's back! We listened, we know you all love Claire! Here, have some Claire! Have some obvious foreshadowing that she'll be even more involved later, please like us! But the main problem, without question, is Danny himself. I can kind of understand how they decided that the gritty realism version of Iron Fist would basically be that one bro you know who did one semester backpacking across Asia, came home thinking he's a guru and opened his own fucking yoga studio to pick up chicks, but I can't for the life of me imagine why they thought anyone would like that character as a hero. Even if the optics of an obnoxious frat boy whose entire arc is about trying to reclaim his various entitlements doesn't annoy the shit out of you, the character himself will. He's annoying, glib, snarky, bratty, and the show doesn't seem to realize that none of this is endearing at all. Never mind the fact that Finn Jones has no discernible charisma in the part, and the script can't keep straight whether he's naive, secretive, traumatized, or slick from scene to scene. It's a mess. Iron Fist the show is the worst fucking thing the Marvel Universe experiment has ever unleashed. But more distressingly, Iron Fist the character is easily the least engaging, most unlikable piece of shit garbage character in their entire superhero menagerie thus far. And this is especially depressing in that it feels like this character and all the still coyly unexplained hand bullshit that didn't work here or in Daredevil is going to end up as the main build for the Defenders. And that's just not a foundation you're going to build anything worthwhile on, believe me. 1 star. Don't bother. If you must keep current with the Marvel stuff, just read a fucking summary before the next one comes out, because man, let me tell you, I really miss the 13 hours I wasted on this bullshit.